if I were to write the multiples out of these three numbers, the first one that they all have in common is 60. The first two have 30 in common, but the third one doesn't have a 30 in common. And then the first and the last have 36, but the second one doesn't have a 36. But you're not going to do that with polynomials or you're going to get crazy, okay? So there's another way to do them. And what I do is I build a chart and I put my three things here, 6, 15, and 12. And then I factor them completely. Everybody know how to do a factor tree? Well, 6 is 2 times 3. 15 is 3 times 5. And 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So I'm going to write down the different numbers I see there. I see 2s, I see 3s, and I see 5s. In any given row, what are the most amount of 2s you see?
2.
2. So we're going to do 2 squared. What are the most amount of 3s you see? 1. And the most amount of 5s you see? 1. So this is 15 times 4, which is 60. That gives you your least common multiple. 2s, 5s, x's, and y's. Yeah?
Yeah.
What's the most amount of 2s you see?
5.
So I'm going to start factoring this, and this is going to be 7 times a times a. And this is going to be 3 times 3 times a times b times b times b. And this is 3 times 7 times a times b, and then 4 c's. So then I have 3's, 7's, a's, b's, and c's. What's the most amount of 3's you see?
2.
Most amount of 7's?
1.
Most amount of a's?
2.
B's?
3.
And C's. So that's 21 times 3 is 63, I believe. 9 times 7, yeah.
Wait. 3 squared is 9.
9 times 7 is 63.
Oh, yeah.
So 63a squared, b cubed, c to the 4th. Yep. So when we have minus and plus signs in the middle, we have to factor them like we did before. So you don't forget what you already know. On that first one, I can pull out a 3 and a y, and I have y minus 3 left. So those are my factors, 3y and y minus 3. Okay? On the second one, I say to myself, what times what is 15 and added together is negative 8? And that would be negative 3 and negative 5, so it's y minus 3 and y minus 5. I'm going to look at the different factors I see. I see a 3, I see a y, I see a y minus 3, and I see a y minus 5. I don't see any other different factors in those two rows, right? And the most I see on any row is 1 of every one of those. It just happens to be 1. So that is my least common multiple. When you see 4 terms like this, attempt to regroup. So I'm going to rewrite it as x cubed plus 4x squared in parentheses. I'm going to put a plus in the middle and then put negative x minus 4. Does everybody see what I did?
So you just regrouped off the bat?
I regrouped it because there's 4 terms up there. So I regrouped. What can I pull out of that first group?
And x squared.
And I get x plus 4. And over here I can take out a negative 1 and I get x plus 4. Remember, if there's a negative in the front, you always take out a negative. So my two factors are x squared minus 1 and x plus 4. Can I factor that first one any further?
Yeah.
That's a difference of 2 squares. How does it factor?
X plus 1, x minus 1, right?
Yep. So now I have factored that first guy completely. X plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 4. Any questions on that? Now the second one, we factor the normal way. What times what is negative 3 added together is 2. And that would be a 3 and negative 1. X plus 3 x minus 1. The question is, what are the most amount of x plus 1s I see? 1. What about x minus 1s?
1.
What about x plus 4?
1.
And what about x plus 3?
1.
So that's your answer. That's your least common multiple.